So, out of the last 2 weeks of Dino-Semper, I'm pretty sure everyone saw this coming. And I'm really wishing I actually had the Carnosaur movies on hand, but I'm getting off track. Hello, World Wide Web. I'm Dr. Shado, the internet personality of the best hair. And this is Jurassic Park III. Obviously, as the first film was a record-setting smash hit, and the second, while its overall quality can be argued for or against, some loathing it, yet some really enjoying it, still the important thing in Universal's eyes is that it also made them a ton of money. Therefore, it should come as no surprise that Jurassic Park III got the green light. It got approved and a release date set long before they even started writing a script. Also had a completely different director and writer, and they started filming before the script was even finished. Why is this sounding awfully familiar? Furthermore, while they tried to get Michael Crichton to come up with a story for this film, as this is the first Jurassic Park movie not based on a novel, he brainstormed with them for several weeks and then left in frustration as the studio didn't like any of his ideas. But hey, maybe they were really bad ideas. I mean, the studio just came up with their own plots after he left, and their first working script was, teenagers stuck on the island. Oh, fuck no! Thankfully, that is not what we ended up with, and instead we get the return of Dr. Alan Grant, again played by Sam Neill. That's not to say the entire script was abandoned, though, as he, along with a small group, wind up trapped on the island and must find a way to escape while evading new dinosaurs and old dinosaurs with new traits. Anyway, enough poisoning the well. Let's take a look at Jurassic Park III, The Cash Grab, and see if you really can just slap one of these movies together. This is gonna hurt. After that title, that would have looked really cool in the 80s, we open to Isla Sorna to find out how the world is dealing with an island full of gigantic, deadly creatures.
Make sure you get as close as you can!
See how many times you can poke at it before it lashes out. Then you can sue. Introducing us to horrible quasi-parental figure Ben Hildebrand, played by Mark Harrelick, and this movie's kid, Trevor Morgan, whom plays the role of Eric. Ben has paid the local illegal tour guide to bring him and his girlfriend's son over to this restricted area on the off chance they might see a dinosaur. Interesting, the black market in this movie actually goes ahead with branding and logos. Makes me wonder if the local drug dealers have savings club cards. However, before long, there is a pretty major problem.
Oh! What was that? I don't know.
This scene is fucking horrible if you don't have the visuals going along with it.
Hold on! What's happening? Hold on! Make it stop!
Yeah, let's never do that again. Obviously what they meant was that the boat got attacked by ninja dinosaurs. No time to mourn the dead within the first 5 minutes, though. There's another problem.
We're gonna crash! Alright, no we're not. We're gonna crash!
You're not going to crash. The boat is going to crash. You are not in the boat. You realize this, right? Fearing that they might drift forward for a bit and get a little wet, Ben saves the day and his dry clean only Hawaiian shirt by, heading to the island. The island that they already know is crawling with giant murderous creatures, but, I mean, hey, what other choice did he have? Those rocks clearly slightly scratched the bottom of that boat, and they just don't have the equipment on them to buff that out. Now that this movie's done establishing a hook, it feels like it doesn't have to try to make us care for the next 15 minutes or so. Therefore, we switch over to Alan Grant, whom is at the home of Ellie, again played by Laura Dern. Turns out that despite the first movie going against the book and making Grant and Sattler a couple, now the woman is married to another man, whom doesn't seem to mind at all as she's hanging out with her old boyfriend. And he even goes so far as to leave the two of them alone together.
Okay. You guys catch up.
Okay, but when you come back and you find Grant with his hand on her ass, don't tell me I didn't warn you. Lucky for him, instead of a game of horny humans, Dr. Grant exposits information about some of the augmentations the Raptor will have in this movie. Turns out they were capable of sophisticated vocalization, and in theory, could communicate with each other if they were smart enough.
They were smarter than dolphins or whales.
Yeah, but not nearly as cute.
They were smarter than primates.
Hold on. You know, the brain-to-body ratio is nice and all, but if you're going to start claiming that raptors were smarter than primates, and most great apes are known for being able to use stone tools that they themselves make, I really think that you should probably give a few examples of raptor ingenuity. And no, creating the dinosaur craze of the 90s doesn't count. But who needs proof when you just pull declarations out of your ass and wait for the events of the movie to confirm your suspicions? Much like the film's audience, the university he's speaking to seems much less interested in all this bullshit and want to know when the hell we're going to see some dinosaurs running around.
No force on earth or heaven could get me on that island.
Thus, the protagonist never finds himself in a crisis situation. The end. Fine, we'll continue. Moving on to Grant's dig site, we are introduced to generic late 20s, early 30s actor Alessandro Nivola playing the young, hip paleontology major Billy Brennan. He shows off his knowledge to the audience by getting up close and personal with a female paleontologist. More importantly, Billy's got a new toy.
It's a rapid prototyper.
3D printer. It does allow them to make the world's most expensive kazoo out of scans of the raptor's resonating chamber, which sounds, nothing at fucking all like a raptor does. Way to spend the dig's already limited funds the most useless way possible, Billy. Still wondering how the hell he ends up on the island, though? Not to worry. William H. Macy shows up, playing the role of Paul Kirby, and takes Grant to a random bar that let the film crew in to meet his wife Amanda, played by Tia Leone. They say that they want to take a flying tour over the island and want Grant as their guide. As no force on heaven or earth can get him on the island, he refuses.
I could write all kinds of numbers on this check, Dr. Grant. What's it gonna take?
Bacon. Lots of bacon. And they're off. Plus, it looks like Grant took Billy along. Supposedly it's for helping him to get into this situation, but I'm pretty sure it's just that Grant knows in these movies, the one thing that's going to stop a dinosaur from chasing you is when he's ripping apart one of your friends. So they fly, and there's clouds, and, when the hell are we going to get to the dinosaurs?
Alan! Alan! Wake up. You're almost there.
No, wait, go back! I don't care that it was a dream, I want to see what happens in that movie! Well, at least they finally got to the island, and I got my dinosaurs. Fucking ass ton of them, which Grant handily points out, but strangely the Kirbys don't seem to care all that much.
We have a landing strip up ahead. You want me to put it down?
You mean set it down? You can't land here. What are you talking about?
Hold on, I can explain.
Surprise! The filthy rich adventure seekers have ulterior motives. And other problems that we'll get into later. Their big muscular flight attendant knocks the out-of-control passenger out, and by the time Grant comes to, it turns out the plane has already landed. Now we get to establish some real character traits between the Kirbys. They're idiots! Which we see as Paul and Amanda bicker about Grant's advice to not make too much noise.
He says it's a bad idea!
What's a bad idea?
Funny, that's the same sound that I make when a strange woman barges into my room and starts screaming into a megaphone. Why the hell does that keep happening? Thus, these tough, no-nonsense mercs say, fuck this shit and run like hell. Problem is, Cooper, played by John Deal, doesn't make it to the plane, so instead, this happens. And so our group of explorers splattered all over the inside of that airplane. The end. Or none of them even suffered a bruise, all thanks to the magic of seatbelts. We also learn that we're back to the original movie's logic, where dinosaurs teleport to wherever they are needed and eat even when they've already fed, because fuck it. Oh yeah, that was Nash, played by Bruce Young. And I also assume that the Spinosaurus growing in size 2 or 3 times over when turning into CGI is just another dinosaur ability that this movie introduces. On the bright side, I can finally comment on the special effects. They're not so special. The CGI seems to have taken a step down from where it was in The Lost World, and the animatronics, while very impressive for their size, don't look natural at all. I mean, the way it moves feels a lot less like an animal and more like something you'd find at a monster truck rally. When they try to escape, the group winds up running into an old friend, which means before 30 minutes are up, we already wind up with what you'd think would be the climactic battle: Spinosaurus versus Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Goddamn sexual
Guess that's the end of that joke. Now that the group is safe and Grant is plenty pissed off, they reveal to the audience that the Kirbys are actually Eric's parents, and even though they knew he was lost somewhere on this island, the authorities weren't willing to help. Thus, they hired some mercenaries and kidnapped a paleontologist instead.
But why me?
He said we needed someone who'd been on the island before.
I have never been on this island.
That was Isla Nublar. This is Isla Sorna.
Interestingly enough, while it would have made sense for the Kirbys to have called Ian instead, despite this movie's really jumbled production, it turns out that Jeff Goldblum was never contacted or even considered for a role in this film. Hearing the kid's been missing 8 weeks, Grant decides, fuck this, and starts heading for the coast. The remaining cast member I failed to rattle off, Mr. Udesky, played by Michael Jeter, opts to stick close to them for safety. This extended character interaction brings up another revelation. Turns out the Kirbys are not super filthy rich adventurers.
There's no such thing as Kirby Enterprises, is there?
It's Kirby Paint and Tile Plus.
So they are merely middle-class business owners. Which means they still have quite a fuck ton of money, I mean. And not billions, mind you, but if this is your concept of broke, I don't even know what to fucking say. Out of sheer dumb luck, they happen to find the parachute that the guys came down in. Even better, they find Ben as well. Jeez, every time a guy tries to be legitimately spontaneous. Possibly due to being traumatized as a child from watching Jason and the Argonauts, Amanda can't stand the sight of skeletons, and they wind up finding something else.
Raptor.
One of the discoveries about raptors is that they had larger feathers on their arms, with anchors in the bones, much like vultures had, and as they didn't fly, it is most likely so that they could cup it around the nest and keep it warm. And although I'll admit that most of those discoveries came well after this movie was made, still, you depict them as very social creatures, and you have fucking 10 nests there, and not a single fucking raptor nearby to keep it safe. Never mind that. They discover a set left over from the last movie and retcon in some Alien Resurrection-style dinosaur cloning alongside the manufactured eggs. They also introduce the feathered raptor. Yeah, they did bother to add minimal feathers and try to explain the reason why only some raptors were feathered is because the males have feathers. I guess that might make sense in some level for this movie's logic, but the way they added those feathers really weren't even the right kind. It just ends up looking like a mohawk, like an 80s style raptor here. Which is still pretty awesome in its own right, I'll give them that. They also established some of the raptor's language.
My God. He's calling for help.
Or that dream sequence earlier really was establishing that Grant has gone batshit crazy after all of this. The end result is more running, of course, and another run through a herd of dinosaurs because we haven't seen that enough times in these movies. Keeping track of the body count, Mr. Udesky is taken by the raptors, and soon Grant finds some as well.
What are you saying?
Thus, our beloved hero, Dr. Grant, dies a horrible, painful death. The end. Hold up, as this fake-out of mine clearly isn't convincing anyone. A few gas grenades fly in, as well as Eric, decked out like Robin Williams in Jumanji. I just know if Creepy was here, he'd insist on playing Tarzan Boy right about now. Point is, this introduces us to the character of Eric Kirby. He is quite possibly the best character in the movie, believe it or not. He exhibits the most determination of anyone on set, the actor does a decent job with the role, and very weirdly means that the child character is somehow the most likable one in the whole movie. My entire worldview has been turned on its head. The next day the characters head out, but Eric hears the familiar ringtone of his father's satellite phone. Thus they scream and run through the woods until they finally meet back up with each other, separated by a fence.
Without fences, without boundaries, without constraining technology.
Okay, so there's another island with dinosaurs, no fences this time.
So the island has no fences, just giant metal barriers topped with spikes. Gotcha. Problem was he didn't have the phone. Nash did. And Nash got eaten. Okay, I'm gonna swallow you all one by one until someone answers this damn phone! Still, they're safe. There's a fence, and... Never mind. Oh, sure, he can destroy the gates of hell, but a little wooden door will stop him. That little wooden door can stop him. What? Shit! Fucking... What the fuck, movie? Victory cannot be enjoyed without more shit coming up, though, so we learned that when they found the random raptor nest, Billy stole 2 raptor eggs, believing that they would be worth more than enough to keep Grant's dig site funded for years to come.
You're no better than the people that built this place.
Because if there's one thing that paleontologists would be vehemently against, it's the scientific pursuit of new knowledge pertaining to prehistoric life. What? Grant decides to keep a hold of the eggs anyway, just in case, and they head down the path the building leads to. The overabundance of rusty metal walkways and fog convinces me they've ended up in Silent Hill. As such, the place is crawling with monsters. Setting into motion the aviary scene, which is actually probably my favorite part of the movie. It's one of those bits that was actually cut out from the original film for one reason or another, but the reasons I like it are because, 1, we finally get pterosaurs prominently featured in a plot-relevant way in a Jurassic Park movie, 2, the limited movement and vision of the people lends its point to have a very horror-esque vibe to it, and 3, the creatures themselves look pretty damn good. I mean, not as good as the creatures from the other 2 movies, but it still looks a hell of a lot better than Truckosaurus Rex. In the end, Billy redeems himself by saving the day. For his trouble, several pterosaurs trap him in the river and kill the ever-loving fuck out of him, while the rest of the cast escapes and gets a free boat with a full tank of gas. I know it doesn't mean they won, they just found a boat. You think you can escape an island with a boat? Oh, no, no, no. You have to contact the outside world or some shit.
Hello?
Or both. They only have enough battery life left for one more call. As a friendly reminder, before iPhones and the like rose in popularity, it was actually pretty common for cell phone batteries to last weeks at a time on a single charge, so I know this is a satellite phone, but still, it's not too outlandish. So, Grant calls the person most capable of solving this crisis.
Ellie?
Hello?
Charlie!
Charlie, played by Blake Bryan. To be fair, Grant is probably going to get a lot more help from this kid than he would have if he called 911. Of course, this is too easy, so Jason Voorheesasaurus shows up. And honestly, I think I understand why every movie in this series has all their dinosaurs running around at night. We've got the same CGI model and same hydraulic Spinosaurus for this scene, but thanks to the rain and darkness, it looks a lot more convincing. I mean, it's got the same problems with jerky motion, but since it's darker and there's a lot more shit going on, it's not as easily noticeable, so you're not really taken out of it as often. Good news, though. Grant got through! Truly, all the information she could possibly need. Don't worry too much, though. Everyone is fine, partly due to the Spinosaurus having butterfingers, partly due to the fact that nobody needs to breathe, and that if there's one thing dinosaurs don't like, it's when water catches fire. Yes, I know the gas tank ruptured and spilled out, and yes, I know that would burn on top of water, but you try explaining that to a dinosaur. Point is, they get out of there, and we never see this creature again. After all, they're right next to the shoreline. Oh, wait, that's right, there was this little plot point involving raptors that needs to be taken care of.
Get behind me.
Lucky for them, they still have the eggs on hand, which have been outside incubating temperatures for at least 2 days. Well, let's hope these creatures are only about as intelligent as your average Hollywood screenwriter. They present the eggs, and Grant remembers the other odd plot device in his pack. Just a quick note to the writers. There is another creature in this movie, that has a very impressive wide range of vocal capabilities. They're called humans. So, why, pray tell, can Grant not mimic raptor language without that hoity-toity duck call? Nevertheless, calling for help not only calls the raptors off, it actually manages to get help to arrive, in the form of fucking armed forces.
You have to thank her now. She sent the Navy and the Marines.
Okay, while husband who had 2 lines in the whole fucking movie did use those to mention that he was working in foreign affairs, there's already one hell of a stretch to explain how Ellie can have this kind of pull. How the fuck, from that little garbled call, did she figure out not only that he was on one of these islands, but which one he was on, and where to send the help? I mean, they didn't have enough of them to cover the whole perimeter. All he said was, the river! Which river? Where? The fucking Mississippi? So, happy ending. They live. And so did Billy. Because we all know a great story requires a great tragedy. And this is not a great story. Plus, the pterosaurs are now free from their cage and flying out to kill people in other parts of the world.
I don't know, maybe just looking for new nesting grounds. It's a whole new world for them.
Well, isn't that great? Except, of course, for this. So, the pterosaurs from the Lost World never left the island, and in fact, locked themselves in a giant birdcage to be set free in this movie, and then leave the island. Makes perfect sense. Anyway, that was Jurassic Park III. Oh, fuck, no it wasn't. Yes, this is the 3rd movie in the Jurassic Park franchise, but hell, if people can dance around Prometheus being a prequel to Alien for whatever reason they like, can I say Jurassic Park 3 feels more like a spin-off and not a numbered entry in the Jurassic Park saga? The first movie was this big, pretentious orgy of paleontological nerdgasms and warnings about the folly of man. The second, while it did piss me off, I will fully admit was a big story full of paleontological nerdgasms and warnings about the folly of man. This movie, though, is a much smaller tale about a family trying to find their child, with undertones about deception, and, well, that's pretty much it. While Jurassic Park 3 didn't piss me off, it did disappoint simply from the fact that they really didn't try anything. The big new aspect was a spinosaurus, but the way it worked in the movie was no different than a giant scaly slasher villain. That's the biggest problem I have with this movie. It's just so damn generic. There are things to like, though. Having Alan Grant as our lead protagonist was a nice throwback, and Eric was a surprisingly well-done child role. The Kirbys are juxtaposed in demeanor against everything we've seen in Jurassic Park before this, but they're supposed to be. I know it's a common joke that the Kirbys suck really hard, but I've seen far worse character archetypes. Overall, Jurassic Park 3 is clearly the weakest entry in the series, and feels very low budget compared to the last 2 films. Some parts even come off like you'd expect in an Asylum ripoff of Jurassic Park. But if you can look past what the film hasn't done, you might find what it has done is at least decent. Decent's not exactly good enough when it comes to Jurassic Park, but still, the film nets 2 pterodactyl death stares out of 5. Personally, I prefer watching this over The Lost World, though I will fully admit that The Lost World is a better Jurassic Park movie, but in my opinion, when it comes to the thing, out of hell with it. Thank you all for watching, I'm Shado, and remember, make sure the check clears before going off to the island of giant killer monsters. Or just take the money and run. Fuck it.